Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Eclectic Knitter podcast. I can't figure out if I'm in the center or if I'm funnily angled or whatever. Anyway, I may pull this a little bit closer. I can. Okay. Welcome to the Eclectic Knitter podcast. My name, of course, is Raylene. You can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Kamana Knits. Show notes for this episode are usually on YouTube, but they're not usually linked, but everything can be found usually in my project page. I'm recording a little bit sooner than normal, and I think it's sooner than normal. I kind of wanted to record last weekend, and it had only been like 2 weeks, so I mean I could have, but then I didn't. So now I'm recording now, so it should be 3 weeks. But my sense of time isn't always that great. So, and I'm not about to double check right now because I'm recording and I don't want to stare at my computer screen any more than I already do by default. I'm sitting on one of my feet, so if I shuffle around, it's because that foot is uncomfortable. Because I like to sit cross-legged, or I like to sit like one foot up and then sit on that foot, which I don't often do with this couch because this is actually a reclining couch, but I don't want to be like sitting back like this while recording. And then I'd have to have the camera even further away because the recliner would kick up right where my little setup is with my laptop. Anyway, this is a lot of information you don't necessarily need. We're going to start with finished objects. I did not bring one of my finished objects. 1 second. Okay, I'm back. A little bit out of breath because I had to successfully navigate the insanity that is my ghetto setup for recording. I.e., I use a pretty good quality, like one of the better quality webcams that I could find, hooked up to my laptop, which is sitting on top of the little tub that I use to wash my knits in, upside down, on top of the stool for my vanity, because I don't have a desk, and I don't have a tripod, and I don't even have a real camera that could even probably use a tripod. I don't know if this webcam has a thing for a tripod. Then I have my normal lamp, which is usually my knitting lamp, sitting over here, like flipped up. And then I have this almost see-through white button-up shirt that I use as a light diffuser. Anyway, okay, so finished objects, whips, and then a couple of other things that I want to touch on. And I will have to update my finished objects list because I don't have all of my finished objects listed in my show notes that are in front of me. So there we go. The first thing, I've washed and blocked my Pinguino and I put on buttons. So those are the toggle buttons. I'm not super happy with these toggle buttons. I wanted gray or black toggle buttons. I think I talked about this last time. Fabricland only had these natural wood ones, and because they've been varnished, my mom didn't think that paint would stick onto them, so I would have had to sand them down and then paint them and then reseal them. So this is how the little I-cord loops work. They're actually almost a little bit too small for this size of toggle button, but they would have been too big for the next size down of toggle button that I could find. So I just wanted to show that I have buttons on it. It's been washed and blocked and it's ready to go for birthday in October, beginning of October. So I'm pretty pumped about that. Hopefully he gets a lot of wear out of it. I hope he likes it. I guess I should mention my hair-ish. My goal yesterday was to bring my hair from blue, which was darker than this originally, to pink. So I bleached my roots, as you can tell. My roots are all bleached. But I have a lot of strawberry blonde in my blonde. There's a lot of red undertones and like weird stuff. So when I just bleach it, it turns like yellow, like a yellow blonde, like Barbie blonde, which isn't really good always for putting other color on top, because if you put blue over yellow, it could potentially turn green. And not a nice green. I'm not a green. I wouldn't ever dye my hair green, so yeah. So this time I bought a toner. I bought a Walla Walla T18 Ash Blonde toner, which I did. So I bleached mostly my roots and then bleached the rest of this, trying to get the blue more out, which obviously did not work the greatest. And then I did toner all over it, which turned it like this ashy blonde, which is kind of exactly what I wanted. But then it also kind of, I don't know what side of my head shows it better. It also kind of pastelized this blue, and there's some like gray looking chunks in it where the blue like kind of half washed out. And I kind of fell in love with it, even though it's kind of janky. Because obviously the stuff up by my face is more blue than like the stuff back here. Isn't really blue at all. It is kind of blue, but not really. Anyway, either way, I'm still kind of in love with it. I'm going to leave it for a bit. The shampoo that I have been using really strips the dye out, because it's not my fancy high-priced color-saving shampoo. It's a sulfate-free, cheaper color-saving shampoo, but I found that those don't work as well as I use a Strata, it's a salon brand. Stradivarsky Shortakoff. I don't know. It's a white bottle with a pink lid. And I buy it on Amazon. I buy a thing of conditioner and shampoo for like $50, a giant, like over 1 liter. And normally I pay like $25 each for like the little shampoo and conditioner. I don't really like the conditioner. I find that it doesn't really condition my hair. My hair feels very heavy after using it. That's why I switched to a different shampoo and conditioner. But this shampoo that I have, like I said, I've still been getting a lot of blue out with that shampoo. So anyway, this is enough about nonsense. That doesn't even matter. I don't know anything about hair, by the way. It's not like I'm a professional hair person. I actually really suck at hair. I've just dyed it a lot. And I mean, like, I've never used a toner before. But if I was going to dye my hair, if all of my hair was my natural color, and I was going to dye it a blonde, I really like this blonde up here that I got. And I did it at home for under $20. If I wanted to do blue at a salon, like bleach, tone, and then do blue, I'd be paying close to $200, probably Canadian, of course. But yeah, I got the dye that I have is called Fuchsia Shock. That's what I'm going to do with my hair. And if I do it over the blue, it'll turn like it'll probably be pinker up here and at my roots, and then it'll be like purpley, which I was okay with. But then I fell in love with this. Okay, I'm done. Honest. The first thing I finished is a pair of socks. These are Handspun Socks. I was knitting these last time, I believe. These are Rambouillet nylon. The colorway was Sunset Beach, I believe. It was from, the fiber was from Created by LCB. It's Rambouillet. I did a I said already Rambouillet nylon. I did a 3-ply. I hated it. I didn't do the color management properly. This spin was my first attempt at color management, and I borked it. I borked it big time. I was very unhappy with the yarn when I finished it, but it knit into nice socks. Now, either my gauge tightened up on the second sock, which is this one, or the yarn was just thinner in this section of the skein than this section, because this sock is smaller than this sock. It still fits, but it's a little bit more tight. And if I hold it up close enough, you may be able to see the different stitch sizes. I don't know if it'll... So you can see that these are more fraternal than identical twins. You can see they kind of go together because they have the same kind of yellowy. But the skein as a whole definitely gradiated quite a bit. And like I said, not a fan. Still not a fan. But I like the socks, and I think they will... I really do like the marling effect that the 3-ply gives. I really do, because it almost looks kind of speckled in places with that dark navy or the dark blue. It kind of looks speckly, and that's just because of the marling in the 3-ply. So that I like. Overall, I like the socks. I'll wear them. Hopefully they wear well. This is the first pair of handspun. This is not the first pair of handspun socks I've knit. I did Three Waters Farms. I think when the first summer I started spinning, so like 2 years ago, they were doing a spin and sock knit along. So you spin the yarn for socks and then you knit them. I had a bump of superwash merino nylon in Marin's Pencils colorway. So I spun that into a 2-ply and I knitted into socks, but it doesn't have much ply twist to it. So the socks, the plies actually look like they're just laying side by side instead of being actually twisted together. So I haven't worn them all that much. I don't think they're going to wear all that well because there's not enough twist in them. But yeah, these ones are good. And they're really smushy. Like, I'm not a fan. Spinning this made me feel like I'm not a fan of Rambouillet. I don't know if I've spun any Rambouillet since. But it is very smushy, which is nice. Next, I'll show you a skein of finished fiber. I finished my first ever targhee spin. This is a superwash targhee from Into the World. The colorway is Scissors Lizard Spock. So the first 2/3 of it I split up into really small strips. I was trying to spin it finer than I normally end up spinning. Usually with a 3-ply, because that's what this is. This is a 3-ply. Usually I get about 340 to 360 yards of like a sport, heavy fingering, sport weight. I wanted this to be lighter. But I know that targhee poofs a bit, at least that's what I've been told. So I cross-laced my flyer. I have an Ashford Kiwi, and it's got the sliding hooks on each side, or the sliding things on each side that you weave. I'll have a picture. My wheel's all the way over there. I'm not about to like try to hoist it up and show you, but it's got sliding hooks on each side. And so I laced it through. My leader, I laced it through the one, and then I wrapped it around the flyer on the other, the bar that the hook slides on the other side. And then I ran it through my orifice hook, to try to slow down the pull, because I find that when I do try to spin thinner, even if there's no uptake, like my break, is it the break or is it just the tension? I don't know what the exact terms are. So the Kiwi 2 has a thin band that goes over the bobbin, and that controls the tension. So that controls how hard it pulls the yarn in through the orifice hook onto the bobbin. Even if that is as loose as can be, I find that it's still, if I spin as fine as I want to, it doesn't get enough twist in there before it's just yanked up. So I cross-laced my flyer to try to slow that down, which worked really well, because this is a 3-ply and I got 520 yards. It is my singles. I was keeping track of the wraps per inch on my singles. I was getting about 45 wraps per inch on my singles, and this, after washing and thwacking, ended up about 18 to 20 wraps per inch, which is definitely thinner, because usually I'm right on 14 wraps per inch. So this is definitely thinner. I am hoping to knit socks out of this. Like I said, the first 2 sections I stripped it down probably into, I think, 12 or 16 little strips and spun it, because I was trying to spin thinner, and I thought that would help. And then the last one I only split, I think, into 6, but there are some sections. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if I can see what my camera sees. There are some sections in here, like this orange right here, where all 3 plies did end up the same color. I'm not mad about it, to be honest. There is a lot of barber pulling. A 3-ply almost gives you that automatically, just because there are 3 plies instead of 2, but you can see there's this minty one here, and the orange ply there are pretty much all orange or mint. But I did get a nice mix of colors like I wanted. And this probably will stripe some, but I think it will get that marled spotty look like the Rambouillet did. So I'm super happy with this. I have another, I guess I'll talk about that during spinning. The next thing is I was going to knit another Penguino for my niece. I had pulled out, well, I still have it pulled out, all of my more girly colors. I don't like determining color based on gender. I think that's kind of crap. But my mom really believes in it strongly, and that's how she describes colors. So I knew that for my nephew's sweater, she would want more, she would approve or like more masculine colors. And I won't lie, the shawl collar, oh, here, I'll pull it up. Is it in the shawl collar? No, it isn't even. Oh, yes, it is. The shawl collar is a speckled, and it does have some speckles of hot pink. You can see one right there. I'm not trying to flip anyone off. I'm just trying to point. There are some speckles of hot pink in the shawl collar. I used a mini held double. But, you know, I really struggled with picking colors, especially since it was marled. Like you can see, like in the sleeves, I just held one color together with itself. In this section, I just held one color with itself. In the shawl collar, the I-cord bind off, the bottom neon orange. This is variegated held with a gray, and I really don't like these sections. And then this, I did a self-striping with a gray, and then a dark gray held together with itself to get this striping effect, which I do like this section. I had a real hard time with color on this, and when I was done the back, the welts, and these side panels, and then the first of this section, I was like, this is gonna suck. I hate it. But you know, when you look on Ravelry, every single version of this does have a point, by the way, looks beautiful. So my mom was like, yours will look fine. Yours will look just wonderful. But now starting one for my niece, I don't want to make it as dark as this one, but all I really have to hold with for a neutral is gray. And this one's all gray. So I started using, anyway, I cast on probably about 4 times and couldn't find anything that I liked for that first, the back panel. I want the back panel to be all the same, which is my own limitation on myself, which is then causing consternation. But I was about half done it using on the round leftover signature sock in speckled cosmic rainbow, and then I was going to run out. So then I tried to pair that with a gray, and then I tried to do something else. Like I just couldn't get it. So instead, she had pulled out a skein of this. She was helping me at my parents' place. I was looking for some yarn for my mom in my boxes, and she was helping me go through it. And she was pulling out skeins left and right going, oh, I want a hat out of this, and I want mittens out of this, and I want a sweater out of this, and hat out of this, and hat out of that, and mittens and socks. And like she pulled out probably like 10 skeins of various stuff and was like, I want this out of this and this out of that. And so we took some of it back. And I had a skein of nomadic yarns in her Spark sock, which is a gold Stellina 2-ply. in the Get Lucky colorway, which is one of her, like, it's a St. Patrick's Day color. She said she wanted a hat out of it. So I sent a picture of that skein now, because this was beginning of the summer, and she's almost 5. So things may have changed between then and now. So I texted my brother and I'm like, can you check with Abby if she still wants a hat out of this skein of yarn? And I took a picture of it and he texted back, yes, she does. So I knit her a Sockhead hat, Sockhead Slouch by Kelly McClure, out of this Spark Sock in Get Lucky. You can kind of see the sparkle there. I did a combination of the teenager size and the child size. I did the teenager stitch count. My niece has a lot of hair. I did the teenager stitch count, but then I did the child length. I don't know if how that will work with her. But it's a fingering weight hat anyway, so it's not like she will be wearing it all winter. This has not been washed or blocked yet. So I knit that for her, and this is going to be part of her birthday present. And then I decided to knit a pair. I had 50% of the skein left over, and I decided to knit her a pair of fingerless mitts out of that color as well. These are the Pioneer mitts by someone. Pioneer gloves, sorry, by Kelly McClure as well. All right, I didn't even realize that until right now. This is a free pattern, and I knit the small adult size, but then I did the thumb and the section on the hands a little bit smaller. So it is 50 stitches around. It has this little rolled cuff, and honestly, they fit me. They're very stretched out, but they do fit, which is kind of cool because I kind of wanted something that would fit her for a while, but because it's rib and it looks so teeny tiny, it would maybe fit her nicely now too. These have not been washed. They've got this really great, I don't know if you saw it when I was wearing it, but this really great detail on the thumb, which goes on, this is like the hand of the mitten where the ribbing and the increases are on one side to give this like swooshy effect. So I finished the fingerless mitts last night. I cast this on last week Saturday. I cast it off on Sunday. Yeah, that was a little. So yeah, these will be my niece's birthday present. I hope she likes them. I'm getting really nervous about whether she will like them or not because she turns 5. She is getting older. She did start school this month, kindergarten for the first time. Who starts kindergarten for the second time? But anyway, she started kindergarten. Like, she's getting older. She, of course, likes her own things. You can't just like her clothes. I mean, to be honest, her other aunt, her mom's sister, and I have ended up buying her a lot of the clothes that she has. So she's worn like what we've bought for her, but she still chooses what she wants to wear every day. So some things get worn more than others, right? But she's not like at the store picking out her own clothes a lot of the time. So I hope that she likes these. I hope she does. I hope she understands. So yeah, that's her birthday present. That's all my finished objects. Ta-da! It's 23 minutes in and we're past finished objects. Next is whips. Spinning is super quick. I have started another spin, but I've only spun like maybe a gram. I am doing a Fellview Fibers hand-pulled rovings in midnight navy blue. It's like merino, Angelina, and like silk or something. I just barely started that. I'm again cross-lacing my flyer. It's going to be a 2-ply. I want it to be really fine. It's super soft. I'm spinning it worsted. So I am smoothing, but it's like a woolen prep because it's hand-pulled roving. It's not a carded or it's not a combed top, is it? I think combed. So all the fibers are a little jumbly. So I am having some consistency issues where sometimes I'm getting like little neps. I don't know if that's because of how I don't know. Like I said, I barely started, so I haven't really gotten into the rhythm of it. It could just be me. Probably is. Because the fiber is beautiful. And then you get these 8 little like bumps of, yeah, they're really nice. And you get it in this little box. Yeah, it's really cute. So I am spinning that, but I'm not pulling the bobbin off for this much spinning. Next, I will talk about these socks. I started knitting another pair of Handspun Socks a while ago. And then it's a tale of woe. It's a tale of woe. I have a tale of woe for you. This is a skein of Handspun. It's a chain ply. This is out of Into the World. This was a club colorway. This is I think it's superwash BFL nylon. It's Castravel Lily, Casa something Lily. I have not created a project for it, but the yarn is in my Handspun somewhere. Yeah, it is a BFL nylon. Castravel Lily. Yeah, it was a club colorway some time ago. I spun it in August and September of 2018, so almost a year ago. And I'm finally knitting with it. Now, it is finer than the Rambouillet nylon. So I have been knitting it on US 1.5s, a 2.5 millimeter needle. And as you can see, I am almost done a sock. I love it. I love it so much. I tried to keep it, like I split the fiber down, but I just spun it from end to end. I wanted shorter stripes. And despite it not really, like there are some marling, like especially in this section right here. You can see that the strands are kind of marled, like here, if it'll ever focus. Focus, please. I want you to focus on my stitches. There we go. But they don't fit. I cast on 56 stitches. I even did a heel flap and gusset, which I do not enjoy doing. And I am almost till the toe. I can get them on, but it ain't pretty. Getting them on is actually okay, but they don't look pretty because this is so tight along the instep. So tight. So tight. And then I had a dilemma. So I realized that they were too tight like 2 weeks ago. It took me like a day and a half to knit this much and then realized they're too tight. And then the dilemma was, do I continue on and give them to my mother, who is totally Handspun Sock knit worthy? Or, and the funny thing is, these are the same width as commercial hand knit socks that I knit. These are pretty much the exact same width as commercial spun socks. And I knit those on a 0 with 64 stitches. So I don't know. Maybe I think it's related to the elasticity of hand spun yarn compared to the elasticity of commercial spun yarn. Like they have quite a bit of stretch to them, but I don't want them to be stretched out like this across my foot, you know? So they went into timeout. Because they're only really the second pair of wearable handspun socks that I've ever knit. And I love how they're knitting up so much. And I couldn't make a decision. Usually, if things don't fit me, I'm like, oh, they'll just go to my mom. Like the length, my mom and mine foot length is the same, but her feet are narrower than mine. So if I knit socks too small, like those New Brunswick socks that I did for the test knit for Sadie Bruin, I just continue going and give them to her. Like, it's not a big, it doesn't hurt my heart to give, I'm sorry. It doesn't hurt my heart to give things to my mom. I have no problems, usually. These were hurting. So they've been sitting for 2 weeks like this. Me being unable to make a decision or even really want to think about making a decision. I have been ignoring them in the hopes they will go away, and they're not doing that. So the other night I decided that I was going to rip them back and reknit them. And then I wanted to do that right away, but I wanted to talk to them on the podcast, so I didn't do it right away. But yeah, I am going to rip them back and reknit them and hope that the yarn holds up. I haven't ripped back handspun a lot, so who knows. But yeah, I do like the fabric I'm getting. It's not like overly dense, but it is not. Maybe I could go down a needle size and then knit 64 stitches. Maybe I'll try that. I had a lot of trouble finding what needle size and gauge to knit those Rambouillet socks on because they were thicker than normal sock yarn. And even this is, I think, I mean, it feels like a fingering weight, but because of the elasticity, I'm just finding that I need a different gauge for handspun because I don't want it to be knit so tight that as soon as it stretches a bit, it just like the stitches just look whack. Like there was a point where even just knit up, the stitches looked stretched in that Rambouillet because I was knitting it on such a small needle. And I don't want that. I want the stitches to look nice, like stitches. So anyway, this will be ripped back and reknit for me because unfortunately I do not have the emotional fortitude to not have those socks. Does that make me a terrible person? I don't know. Maybe not. The next thing that I was working on before I cast on my niece's hat, I have unintentionally joined Knitting Vicariously's Glorious Gold Along. Words are difficult. This is a skein of Madtosh Twist Sock in the Wings colorway. It is a gray with yellow and pink. It's kind of a variegated. I bought this before my niece was born. So like 5 years ago, plus 5 years ago. I don't even know. I know they still sell this base. I don't think they dye this color anymore. I bought a skein of this color in DK Twist and knit my niece a sweater out of it. That I knit the Lush by Tin Can Knits out of it. And it looked awful. Where I, you knit this lace panel and then you like knit the body down and knit the sleeves down from it and then knit a little collar. Well, where I picked up for the sleeves, it like went down and then whoop. So I ripped that out, but it was in DK Twist in the Wings colorway and I fell in love with it. And then I bought 5 skeins of it in Twist Light from their online store in order to knit a Boxy. And it has been sitting. I actually did the gauge swatch for this. So these 2 skeins have been caked for probably 3 years. I knit a gauge swatch for this, I think, in at least 2017, if not 2016. And I've still never knit it. And I was having a bout of knitting ennui this week. Well, not this week, last week. This week has been full of knitting presents for my niece that I'm not sure she'll like. But anyway. So I decided to cast on a Boxy. This is a pattern by Locatelli. I am knitting the largest size and praying to all the gods and all the things that exist in the world that the sleeves will fit, because on my worsted Boxy, the sleeves don't really fit. They're a little bit tight where the sweater falls on my arm and how you pick up and knit. So this is what it is. This is how far I am. So I have done quite a bit of work on it, considering I have 410 stitches on my needles. I got gauge on a gauge swatch using the needles called for in the pattern. Now, because I have knit a number of sweaters for myself already, and I have found that because I am obviously a bigger person, my sweater is bigger. Therefore, it uses more yarn and has more weight to it. So I find that the gauge on the finished object versus the gauge in my gauge swatch never matches, no matter how big I make my gauge swatch, because it never has that weight to it that a full sweater has. Knowing this, and then I always end up with sweaters that are honestly too big for me. My flax that I knit out of Madtosh Vintage in the Steam Age colorway is like, I'm pretty sure I have 5 or 6 inches of positive ease, and I knit the 58-inch bust. Now, I think I did the 58. I may have gone down. So I really like Madtosh Vintage at 16 stitches to 4 inches, just because it is a thicker worsted weight yarn. And the gauge in the flax is 18. So I did a little bit of math voodoo to knit it to 16 stitches per inch, but get about a 60-inch bust, because that's what my full bust is. But it is a little bit big. I could have knit it smaller using the 16 stitches per inch, because my upper bust measurement, I've mentioned this before, is only 53. So I should be knitting sweaters to my upper bust measurement, not my full bust measurement. So knowing that my gauge swatch 3 years ago, my gauge has also loosened up, I think, since I knit that swatch. And knowing that it is a large sweater, it's 76 inches around, are the last 3 sizes, which is still 16 inches of positive ease on my full bust measurement, I went down a needle size. And I went even further down, because she has you knit 3 rows of ribbing on the needle size called for, and then you switch over. But I know that Amy Beth has had a lot of issues with flippage and on her first Boxy, so I just cast on. So my needles that I'm using for the main body are US 3s. That's a 3.25 millimeter. And I knit the ribbing on 2s. And I knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 rows, about an inch of ribbing before switching to the larger needles and knitting stockinette. I am using helical knitting and I'm switching every row because it's not quite a speckle. I'm not sure if it will pool, but I do not want it to pool. I am using a stitch marker or a progress keeper. I think this is from Sucra Miniatures, because I don't really like their progress keepers as much as others, but that's just personal preference. This is my actual beginning of round, but where my needles stick out is where I'm actually switching yarns, which is over here. Oh dear. So, oh no, I lost a stitch. Oh no. Having problems. So I was knitting on this monogamously until I started knitting my niece's stuff. And now that my niece's stuff is done, I can knit on this again. Well, that's not quite right. Oh my goodness. Okay, I need to figure this out later. All right. This is living in a Fatsbro fiber bag. I think this was a bag for the Leading Men Fiber Arts kit with the 3 skeins of DK, or I think this was, and then it had a pattern that came with it. I had not knit that pattern. I don't even know where that yarn is. I just really wanted the bag. Because it's got narwhals and polar bears and bunnies, and it's very Canadian. So I just wanted the bag. Let's be honest. That's all the knitting that I have. 40 minutes in. I'm glad to see that I've killed a lot of time. One thing that I showed last time that I obviously have not showed today is the test knit I was doing for Caitlin Hunter of Boylan Knitworks. I was test knitting the ghost horses. And I was super excited to test that because popular pattern designers often do not knit sizes that will fit me. And this year, with the movement towards, or the information that came out about Black, Indigenous, and people of color in the community, there have also been movements towards more size inclusivity, which directly affects me, obviously. Not to say that I don't support anything else. I'm just saying. So I have contacted personally a number of designers going, I really like your patterns, but every time you come out with a pattern that I really like, it's never big enough to fit me, which is really disappointing. And I was wondering if you were working towards larger sizes or a bigger size range. All of them so far have been really nice, really apologetic, and have made active steps towards, well, most of them I have seen active steps. Like Andrea Mowry, she re-released or updated her, the Weekender, and another one with larger sizes because she's doing them kind of one at a time. Caitlin Hunter was another one because she's been super popular for like the last year and a half, 2 years. And she immediately, like, her new patterns have had larger sizes. So I was super excited to be able to test knit a pattern for a really popular designer that had a size that fit me, including the intended ease. Like, I was knitting the 64-inch bust, I think, 64-inch size. And then all the stuff happened on Instagram, and I didn't feel comfortable anymore with it, unfortunately, which was disappointing. But I mean, people make mistakes. And so I decided that I wasn't going to work on it anymore. It is sitting in timeout in a bag. I was almost done the yoke. I was almost ready to split off for the sleeves, and I haven't had the heart to rip it out yet because it was heartbreaking because it's gorgeous. So it is sitting there. And she issued an apology on Instagram, which I felt was, well, in the process of not doing the test knit, I left the Facebook group that the test knit was in. I stopped following her on social media. I unliked, I think, most of the patterns that I had liked from her. I removed them from my queue. I did not hide her patterns on Ravelry because that was also a thing that was going around. But I did take steps to place that separation just because I didn't feel comfortable with how things had gone down. And she issued an apology on Instagram that I found by searching later because I wanted to see, like, it was supposed to come out at the end of August and it never did. And then she had made her Instagram account private for a while, and then it was public again, and she issued this apology, and I felt better about it. And she released the pattern 2 days ago, but now her Instagram account is deactivated, and the pattern is available for free until I think tonight or something. I obviously have a test knit copy of the pattern, so I have not taken advantage of the free pattern. So it's still not quite sitting right with me. I was hoping that it would be better. I really was, on behalf of the people who were hurt by the events that happened. I was hoping for better. And I just can't support that right now. I just don't feel comfortable with it. So it is still sitting. I have not ripped it out yet because it's still, I will rip it out unless something drastically changes and I feel comfortable finishing it. But it is going to get ripped out. At this point, it will be. I just have not. And I haven't put another stitch on it. It's sitting in my laundry basket in its bag with all of the yarn that I had, waiting for me to rip it out. So yeah, that was sad. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about purchasing yarn in general. As you can tell, I have not been purchasing yarn. I have had some fiber come in recently. I haven't even shown it on the podcast, I don't think. I was a part of the Hello Yarn fiber club because, she dyes beautiful fiber. And then I joined the Nest fiber club for a couple months because she also dyes beautiful fiber. But, for example, the Hello Yarn Club is, I think, $53 for 3 months US. That includes shipping to Canada, which of course is like, I think she's shipping in the States for $2 a month, and she ships to Canada, I think, for $10 a month US. So at the end of the day, for a 3-month club, I end up spending over $100 after exchange and shipping. Nest Fiber Club was $29 US a month, including shipping to Canada, which ends up being $40 to $45 a month, depending on how the exchange fluctuates a little bit. That's a little bit out of my price range. I don't know if I can justify anymore spending money on exchange, because the money that I spend on exchange is not going to the fiber artist. The extra money that I spend on shipping is not going to the fiber artist. It's going to the US government or PayPal or whatever. I don't even know where exchange rate money goes, to be honest with you. So I did a call out on Instagram for Canadian dyers and stuff, which was very good. I found some really nice ones that I do want to purchase from at some point. But even then, because getting supplies is more expensive in Canada, because a lot of the times you're getting them from the States anyway. You see where this is going? So they're paying exchange to get their supplies, and then like Sweet Georgia, for example, is like $30 a skein. It's Canadian. Tanis Fiber Arts is, I think, 20 to 30, depending on the base, because she has some silk cashmere bases that are quite pricey. But she does work, I think, with a Canadian mill, because all of her stuff is specially milled for her. Especially her machine washable, non-chemical, pure wash, super wash. I don't know, she got together with a mill and did this super wash that isn't as harsh, doesn't use the super harsh chemicals to scour to chemically remove the scales from the fiber or something. I'm not 100% sure. I would go to her blog for more information. I think she made posts about it there when she started it, which was at least 2 or 3 years ago. So even if I'm buying from Canadian fiber artists, I'm still paying exchange usually at some point. Because even if you buy from a Canadian supplier, where are they getting it from? Are they getting it from the States? Are they paying the exchange? At some point, it becomes unstable for me to purchase yarn directly from the United States because of I'm incurring directly the cost of the exchange. I would rather use that money to support Canadian fiber artists and have the money go directly to that artist. Now, if the US yarn people were incorporating the cost of the exchange, I don't know. That would be weird because it goes through PayPal usually. When PayPal calculates the exchange and takes it and they give them whatever. I don't know. Anyway. I can't afford it. I can't afford to shop from the States anymore. I just can't. I have also a shit ton of yarn and a shit ton of fiber that I just need to work through. Like this wings colorway, I love it. It's been sitting in my stash for over 5 years. I haven't used it. Why? Most of the stash I have has been in my stash for at least 2 years. I have not knit all of it. I have not even knit a little bit of it. I've probably gone through more fiber in my fiber stash than I have gone through yarn in my, that's maybe not entirely true because I have knit a number of sweaters. Anyway, I just can't justify. I would love to stay in the Hello Yarn Club. I would love to get the Nest Fiber Yarn Club or Fiber Club. Oh, excuse me. It's beautiful. I love it. It hurts my heart every time Hello Yarn releases their club of the month and I don't have it in my hands because it's always gorgeous. And I want to be one of those. I mean, at the end of the day, it all comes down to consumerism, right? Like, why do I need that? I don't. I have lots of beautiful yarn and fiber right in my house, right in my parents' house mostly. But I have a lot of really pretty stuff that I own and I bought because I wanted it, because I lusted after it to some extent, because I wanted to be one of the cool people who has all of the fancy stuff. And meanwhile, I am up to here in, unpaid credit cards because I've been buying stuff that I don't need, but that I want. And that is honestly partly due to Instagram, podcasts, like all the podcasts that you watch that use their podcast platform to sell their yarn. Woolenvine doesn't anymore. She stopped doing her What's in My Shop This Week segment, which I honestly appreciate. And she doesn't usually do a haul segment, which I also appreciate. But like Amy of Stranded Dye Works, I love her and I love her yarn, but it's so tempting after she shows you all the pretties to then go and try to buy something, and it's not, even from the UK, it's not sustainable because the UK exchange rate is even worse than the States. Like I'm paying double for a UK pound, for a British pound versus a US dollar. US dollar I'm only paying 33% about. With the pound I'm paying like 50% or 100%. I don't even know what the exchange rate is, but I know it's higher than the States by quite a bit. Like it's double the exchange rate to the States, so like 60%. And then Instagram, you follow all these people on Instagram that you like, and you see all these patterns and yarn. I mean, how many patterns do I have in my queue that I own that I have not knit because I do not have time, and still I'm buying patterns and I'm buying yarn for things that I don't have enough time to knit because I have to work and take my dog to the park and spend time with my family. And I'm so over it. And then I get it's partially tied to my mental health, because if I'm feeling lousy and feeling alone and having a hard day, that rush of buying something temporarily lifts your mood, right? Which then contributes to other bad moods because then you got a credit card that you can't afford to pay. So, and I mean, then you have knitting ennui, like I talked about a little bit before my Boxy. Everything that I was working on, I hated. Everything I was working on was awful. I didn't want to knit on any of it. I didn't want to spin on anything. Didn't want to knit anything. I just had zero motivation to do anything at all. And then I partially realized when I cast on my Boxy, it's because I just wanted to knit in circles. I could have just knit a pair of socks. And I actually have that Nomadic Yarns Gone Glamping. I haven't even cast on the second sock yet. Same with the Woolberry Fiber Champagne Pools. I haven't even cast on the second sock yet. Could have just gone around and around and around there, and with the work that I put in my Boxy, I could have had both of those second socks done. But the Boxy helped. I am using the yarn that I have because I am not buying more. The last skein of yarn I bought was, I bought a skein from Quebec and I bought a skein of Lavender Loon in like July. They were monthly colors. And I bought a skein of Query Fiber Arts, her self-striping. I think I showed that a while ago. Because she was having a like 20% off sale, which basically covered, I think it either covered the shipping or most of the exchange. So the amount that I paid in Canadian ended up being the dollar amount that I would have paid in US if it had been regular price. So that then made it a little bit more acceptable, or a little bit more justifiable, I guess. I still don't need more Query Fiber Arts. I have like 50 skeins of hers that I need to knit up. But anyway, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know where I'm at. Does that help anybody? In all this talk about money, I mean, and I mentioned I have like 50 bazillion patterns that I own that I have not knit. I have pattern books that I own that I have never knit anything out of them. Everybody does this. Everybody has this stuff that we want to knit, and we get these books and we never knit from them. I also, like, I know that knitwear designers, there's been a lot of discussion about the price of patterns, that they do not reflect the actual cost of the designing and the time. And I agree with that. In a perfect world, I would be able to pay designers and artists and yarn dyers and authors and independent publishers and all of these people who, are making a living for themselves. I would be able to pay all these people what their time is worth in an ideal world. And I would love to. I agree that current pattern prices, unless you're selling a lot of volume, like Stephen West, probably, just with the sheer volume that he sells of a new pattern every time it comes out, then doesn't have to like pump up his pattern price. And you can see it in like Brooklyn Tweed, for example, says that their whole design, their whole concept is to charge more for patterns, not provide books of patterns usually, but their collections, their fall collections, each pattern is priced out individually so that they can pay the designer a little bit more directly, right? And I support that. But at the same time, when I'm looking at buying a $7 pattern and you add 33% of that for exchange, I am then immediately paying more than $10 for that pattern. And I know that the designers have no control over that. Like, it is completely out of their control what the US dollar is worth versus the Canadian dollar and all of this stuff. And I wish I could just afford to pay, Jessie May, her $14 per pattern. I think it's worth it. I think her patterns are well written. But I just can't, because that $14 pattern plus, 33%, well, even plus 30%, 14, 7, well, okay, 14, $1.40, $2.80, $4, 14. So you're paying almost $20 for that pattern if I'm paying, full price plus exchange. So yeah, it hurts. It hurts on all sides. I don't know what the answer is, but these are things that I need to start taking into consideration a little bit more instead of just impulse purchasing. And so because of that, I have stopped following a lot of, I've unsubscribed from a lot of newsletters that are yarn and fiber related, because if I don't know that they're having an update, I am not tempted to shop. I have stopped following a lot of yarn dyers on Instagram because I don't know if Instagram should be a marketing thing. It's supposed to be a social media thing, not a marketing thing. but it is them. I mean, let's face it, it's all a marketing thing these days. But I have stopped following a lot of yarn dyers and stuff on Instagram specifically because then I am not tempted to purchase. I've stopped watching some podcasts because they talk too much about things that they've bought, or they review too many things or whatever. Like, I don't really watch the Knit Girls that often anymore because it's too much talk about stuff that isn't really related. Sometimes I feel it's too much advertising. I tried to listen to the Knitmore Girls, and then I had advertisements, and then I didn't want to listen because I know that there's affiliate links, and Christina Vollenvine has an affiliate with Fabric.com and with Skillshare or whatever. And I know that they need to be compensated for their time, I suppose. I don't know. It's a slippery slope. It's tricky. So I'm going to stop rambling about it because it's not really probably helpful, and I don't really have a place that I'm going with this, except I did want to talk about exchange rate and stuff like that. All right. I hope you guys have another... Oh, there's Cyrus. You can see him for a second. Oh, sleepy puppy. We went for a walk before this, so he's 20-minute walk and he's done. Anyway, I will talk to you guys in a couple weeks. Bye.